Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started. Thank you so much for joining this morning. I know, because I attend a lot of webinars and online presentations myself, I know what it takes to actually hear about something online, sign up to go to it, and actually make the time to go to it. It's a big stretch, so thank you for making that stretch. And I also know that this particular webinar that you're attending is about getting out of credit card debt. So the fact that you are somehow struggling with credit card debt and looking to get out of that and joining me to do that, also a really big leap forward. So I really, really want to just acknowledge you for that and tell you how grateful I am for you to be here doing this with me today. I am Kenny Goldie, the creator of Debt Reduction Made Easy and your host. And I have a couple of promises for you before we get started. One is I attend a lot of webinars where not a lot gets said. You know, you'll be on for an hour and a half, and they'll tell you the problem they have, and then they'll tell you that their clients have succeeded in solving your problem, but they don't tell you how to solve your problem. And my promise to you today is that this webinar is going to be chock full of information. Obviously, Debt Reduction Made Easy is a course, and at the end of our session today, I'll be telling you how you can take advantage of that course. But whether you do or not, your time here today is valuable to me, and you are going to get value out of being here. So let's jump in. I believe this statement applies to everything, not just being here today. You always have two choices in life when you're trying to do something that hasn't been working for you. One is to keep doing what you're doing. There's an old saying. How does that old saying go? Keep doing the same thing and expect different results. You can keep doing what you're doing in the debt world. That's maybe paying off your credit card every month or making the minimum payment on your credit card every month. Or maybe you haven't been making payments on your credit card and you're getting collection calls, but you're not taking any concrete action towards getting out of the situation. You can keep doing what you're doing and expect different results. Though in my experience, having done this for many years now, different results don't necessarily come when you're doing the same thing you've been doing, or you can try something new. What I'm going to present to you today is something new, something you likely haven't tried before, maybe not even heard of before, as a method to get out of debt much more quickly than paying that minimum payment every month and saving a lot more money than doing that. Ultimately, I'm going to be teaching you every secret your bank doesn't want you to know about reducing your credit card debt for far less than you owe. This image here is an actual reduction letter from a client and friend of mine. He had a great settlement. He had $26,000 in debt. He reduced it to $9,000. Is that a little about 40%? And he got a great, I have to say, this that he got is not something I see often. $200 a month, monthly. So he stopped paying his $600 or $700 a month and started paying $200 a month with no more interest being accrued, and only had to pay off $9,000 instead of $26,000. That was just last year in 2024. So that's just one example, and I'm going to show you many, many more. You can save, I say, up to 65%. That's not by any means codified. It's just my experience. I've been doing this for 15, 18 years now. And I did it myself. I'm going to tell you about that. And I've done it for hundreds of clients and people in my courses. And that's about where I find people land. Maybe, and I'm talking about the amount off from 100% of debt. You're going to save 65% and pay 35% or between 30 and 40%. That's like a non-official industry standard reduction in a reasonable amount of time, which I will say is what I think you have a likely chance of getting to. I do want to say up front, I'm not a lawyer. Debt Reduction Made Easy is material based on my personal experience. I went through this with several banks and my client experiences and research that I've done into the banking industry and credit cards, but it is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice or financial advice or legal advice. In fact, I encourage you to hear what I have to say today and then go to your bankruptcy attorney if you have one, or go to your accountant if you had one, and say, hey, I did this webinar and this guy said this. What does that mean? And let that person weigh in. I really do want you to have your professional who you trust validating the material that I'm going to share with you. I am not here to tell you not to pursue anything else, only to give you more information for any route that you choose to pursue. The client testimonies, which you will see here today, are real. They are real clients who really did this, who I really interviewed. But I do have to say that your results are going to vary because your situation is different. Your debt is different. Your banks are different. Your cards are different. You are different. The way you negotiate is going to be different. Your results are going to vary based on the fact that you and your situation is different. But the clients that you'll hear today are real people who really did go through this. So who is this for? Anyone struggling with credit card debt, I am here to help. Anyone looking for the fastest, cheapest way to get out of debt, because there are ways out of debt that are not fast and not cheap. And the banking industry does not want you to know about the faster, cheaper ways because they want you to go the slow, pay them a lot of money ways. So if you're looking to get out of debt and you're looking to get out of debt in a faster, less expensive way than you think you're facing, this is exactly for you. And if you're just curious, if you're like, hey, I saw this guy in an ad and I signed up and I don't know what's going on, great, stay, learn. We're going to be here about an hour, 15 minutes or so. And at the end, if you make it to the end, I hope you do, I will have a free gift for you, a free surprise gift, one of the elements of the Debt Reduction Made Easy course I will give to you just for sharing this time with me today. And also, you'll notice as I get into the course later that I'm going to talk about the historical prices as I was like making videos one-on-one. Because you're here today, I'm going to package it all together and give you a surprise discount. So be sure to stick around to find out just how affordably you can get this course that's going to save you a ton of money. So let's jump into one of those actual people who really did do this. This is my friend and client, Jerry in Tennessee.
Legitimate things happen, crises happen in people's lives. There's a road to follow to get your way out. And man, you provided a great roadmap for us, which was just tremendous.
Sorry about that. I meant to play that without the card over his face and click the button too soon, but you heard what he had to say. Debt Reduction Made Easy is it's a roadmap. It's a roadmap to a road that you haven't gone on, but I have gone on, so that I can show you what to expect on that road. So when you go down it yourself, you are ready for and familiar with what you are going to experience. And it feels not new, but like something you've learned about already, so that it's an easier road to travel. So how did I become such an expert on do-it-yourself debt reduction? Good question. For me, it started in the 2008 market crash. I'm a businessman. I had a business going at the time. I had a business partner. Side story, my business partner passed away in 2007, taking a lot of the business debt that we had, and I had to kind of take it on as personal debt. So I had a lot of personal debt, which I wasn't worried about. I'd been running my business for a long time and making sales and paying off debt in the past. But then this 2008 market crash hit and things stopped working the way they had been working, which is very, very common. Most people who are in debt don't get in debt because they go spend frivolously. That's a very small percentage of people who just go out and run up their credit cards willy-nilly and then can't manage it. Most people who are in debt are managing their life. They make an income, they use credit cards, they pay off their credit cards a certain amount a month. Maybe they use a credit card for a big vacation, they pay that off over a little more time, but the business model of their life has been working. And then something happens to make the business model of their life not work anymore. Maybe it's an accident and they're injured and they can't work, or they get surprise medical bills, or they get laid off. 40 million people laid off during COVID, or things like what are happening now with interest rates going up and inflation going up, and then the tariffs are happening and businesses are shrinking and more layoffs. For me, it was the market crash, and my business that had been running now wasn't running. And I was left with debt that I didn't expect I was going to have when my partner died. The business model of my life had stopped working. And that's how most people get into unmanageable credit card debt. And I thought I only had a couple of options. Pay, that's the option we're all taught when it comes to credit cards. You get your credit card bill and you pay it, whether you pay it off every month or pay a portion of it or pay that minimum balance, just keep paying. Pray, thought that was an option. Like, my business will turn around, the market will turn around, I'll win the lottery, like something will happen, I'll go get some amazing job that I never knew was even possible and make 5 times as much money and be able to pay off my debt. I had well over $200,000 in credit card debt when that happened, and I was paying $3,600 a month in minimum payments, and most of that interest. I wasn't just like leaning towards bankruptcy. I was hurtling towards bankruptcy. I had a few months of money left in the bank before I was going to be destitute. So pay, pray, or run away. That was the bankruptcy option. Like, I can't do this, so just hand it over to somebody else. I actually did go to a bankruptcy attorney. Again, I am not an attorney, so I am going to relate to you what my attorney said to me, but I encourage you to go talk to a bankruptcy attorney and tell him what I told you mine said and see how it applies to you. But one of the things he said was that bankruptcy does not eliminate debt, which I didn't know. I just kind of always had this word bankruptcy in my mind and thought when you file bankruptcy, you don't have debt anymore. But there were some laws that changed in the early 2000s where bankruptcy courts were no longer just taking people who had a lot of personal debt and saying, okay, you're bankrupt, so all your debt's gone and you get to keep your assets. Because apparently what they had were people who had a lot of assets and a lot of debts, and they filed bankruptcy to get rid of their debt, and they kept all their assets. And the creditor said, well, that's not fair. If they have assets, they should use them to pay off the debt. So what the bankruptcy court said is you can file bankruptcy, but when you do, you're kind of just turning your financial life over to the court and giving the court the right to determine what to do with your assets to pay off what they can of your debts. And there's different rules. I think at the time in California, I could keep a car for a few grand, which means if I had a car that was worth more, they would sell it and give me a few grand to go buy a cheaper car. But basically, what the court does is they negotiate reductions in your debt with your creditors, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Only I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself without going through bankruptcy. So, but that's what a bankruptcy court would do. You have all this debt, you have all these assets, whether it's a house or cash in the bank or jewelry or land or whatever it is that you own, and you give it all to the court. You turn your financial life over to the court, and the court calls up your creditors and looks through all your assets and determines what to give to each creditor that's less than they're actually owed. And then that's bankruptcy. And it comes with fees. You have to pay your attorney, you have to pay some court fees. All that goes on with bankruptcy. This is what he told me. And then he told me something that I was shocked after an hour of listening to him tell me what bankruptcy is. He says, but you don't need the court to call up your creditors to negotiate to pay them less than you owe them. You can do it yourself. And my eyes bugged out. This is like 2008 or 9. Now there's so many ads on TikTok and Facebook and everywhere from, I think a guy from Shark Tank is doing it, and all the affiliates are doing it, telling you there are secret government programs that can help you pay less than you owe. There's so many ads now. There was none when I did this in 2008 or 9. Like I couldn't find anything online, not a blog, not an article, nothing, except my attorney was telling me I could call my creditor and say, hey, I'm in a situation that I didn't expect to be in, and I want to make good on it. I just can't do it at a full 100%. Can we negotiate for me to pay you less than I owe you to close out my account? I was shocked, and I started doing it. I had like seven different accounts at the time that were all in delinquency at the same time. And I started negotiating with them, and I got really good at it. And one of the reasons I got really good at it is that I saw the pattern of what they were doing. I would be on a call with one bank and I would sort of start to hear the script they were using. And then I'd be on a call with another bank and then I'd hear the script they were using. And I started to see through what they were doing and all of their intimidations and everything they did to try and emotionally cajole me to keep paying my monthly payment at full interest so they could make as much money as possible kind of fell away from me, like the Matrix. I like saw it and I went, oh, I see what you're doing. I can figure out what to do to counter that. And I started negotiating settlements on my debt, and I did, as I said, very, very well. This is a credit card balance of $76,000 that I reduced to $25,000, and this one was about $39,000 that I reduced to $10,000. And here's one that was $21,000 that I reduced to $7,400. And this was a $25,000 balance I reduced to $9,300. And this is a $22,000 balance I reduced to $5,000. That was my best percentage. That was 22%. Here's another one, $17,000 reduced to $7,000. I was so good at it, and I had such an experience with it that I decided I wanted to share that experience with others because nobody was there to share that experience with me at the time. So I wrote a book called The Do-It-Yourself Bailout, which I got published at the time. And when it got published, I started to get a lot of magazine articles and online articles and other news articles. And then I was on podcasts and radio shows and television shows all over the country, sharing what I learned about debt settlement. This was actually fairly recent, a couple of years ago on the Spectrum Morning News here in Los Angeles. And at one point, I had the CBS News come out to my house and do a piece on me. And Glenn Walker, God bless him, did this article on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood.
Kenny Goldie has written a book. It's called The Do-It-Yourself Bailout. And if you are being buried by those finance charges on all your credit cards, this book is a must read.
And that was it. CBS said this book is a must read, and people started reading it. And then I started getting emails from people saying, thank you for your book, and thank you for telling me this was possible, and thank you for telling me what to expect as I do it. And the thing that really touched me is these weren't just like, you taught me how to mow my lawn. Like, These emails were about changing people's lives. These emails were about people who were struggling and suffering in financial insecurity, who had reclaimed financial security for themselves and their families. And that's really what has kept me going in this work for so many years, 15 years now, because I really love it when I have the ability to change someone's life through sharing the information that I've gained. Here is my client, Nicole.
Something I'm really learning is like, especially as a woman, it's okay to use your voice. It's okay to be able to say what you legitimately have in your bank account and that you can try to settle this out in a way that is healthy for me. Not healthy for the banks, but healthy for me. What will get me back on my feet? What can I actually afford? What can I actually do? And what I'm starting to realize is there's more leeway than you think. You have more power in this process. And just by that alone, I would recommend doing this if you're looking to get your power back away from money and these institutions that feel like they can kind of suppress your power, which is, I know that sounds kind of dramatic, but if you really think about it in your own life, what's your relationship to money? You're probably giving your power away to some institution.
Nicole's right. That's a very big part of our financial world, is that big institutions control money, and we are meant to feel like the victims, or at very least the pawns in that game of money that we don't understand. And what Debt Reduction Made Easy does is it gives you that power back. Okay, so on its very basic surface level, what is Debt Reduction Made Easy? It's what's called debt settlement. It's settling out your account for less than the amount owed, negotiating a payment that is less than the total debt, which the bank or credit card company treats as full settlement of the debt, releasing the borrower of future payment obligations, interest, or collections, meaning they're going to take less than you owe them, and when they do, they're going to close your account, and that's it. We're not going to try and collect the rest from you anymore. That's debt settlement. I know you have questions. I've been through this so many times. You're already asking, how much can I save, and how long does it take, and what happens to my credit score? Don't worry, we're going to cover all of your questions today. Let's start with, how much can I save? So as I mentioned, about 65%, but I want to take you through what that really looks like. So I use $100,000 credit card debt just as an example, because it's a nice round number where the percentages are easy to do. But as we do this, you can follow in your head with your credit card debt amount and kind of come to the same number. So, and this little calculator here is just an iPhone app called Easy Calculator, where I just put in $100,000 credit card balance and an annual interest rate of 25%, which is pretty average these days. Some people have 19, some people have 29, some people have 34. If you still have 4 or 5, never lose that card at all, but this is pretty average these days. It tells me your minimum monthly payment is $2,600. So that's $2,600 a month you're sending to the credit card company instead of putting into your life. And most of that is interest, as you know. And it says that it's going to take you 78 months to pay off that card, which is about 6.5 years. And by the time you're done, you will have paid another $103,000 in interest. I rounded down to 100, but basically, whatever debt you have, you're going to pay about double in interest at an average percentage rate these days. And it's going to take anywhere from 7 to 15 years. And if you want to know exactly what yours is, go grab your last month's credit card statement out of your drawer if you keep it, or online if they email it to you. However you get your credit card statement, there was a law passed in 2010 that said credit card companies have to put on the front page of your statement how long it will take you to pay off your credit card if you only pay the minimum monthly balance, and how much you will pay in interest. And if your interest rate is somewhere between 20 to 30%, I'm pretty sure you're going to see it say it's going to take you anywhere from 6 to 10 or 12 years to pay it off, and that you're going to wind up paying about double in interest by the time you're done. So if you go through debt settlement, if you use Debt Reduction Made Easy and you negotiate with your bank to come to a settlement, which I believe will be about 65% off, or settled in the 30 to 40% payment range, I'm going to round up and say you're going to pay $35,000 to the bank. You're not going to have a minimum monthly payment anymore because you stopped paying your card. So that's money that if you were sending the bank, you can start putting into your life. Instead of 6.5 years to pay off, in my experience, have found that 35% target gets hit in about 6 to 18 months. If you go longer than 18 months, You may get a little bit lower, though it becomes harder and stretches out more. Shorter than 6 months, your settlement amount's going to be higher. So to reach that 35% settlement amount, it's about 6 to 18 months. You're going to pay a little tiny bit of interest just in those first few months that your card account is still active. They'll still tack on a little bit of interest, which will just increase your balance, which will the settlement will apply to anyway, but not, double. And so your total payment is going to be $35,000 on $100,000. You're going to save $65,000 in principal and another $100,000 in interest, which means you can pay off your debt for 6.5 years at the minimum monthly payment and pay $200,000, or you can settle your debt in 6 to 18 months and pay $35,000. That's what debt settlement does for you. And if you get into it and you decide this isn't for me, I don't like doing this negotiation. I just got a job. My praying worked. I won the lottery. I made more money. Whatever it is, if something happens that makes you want to stop this, you can just stop. Your bank is always going to be happy to put you back on a minimum monthly payment to keep getting interest, or take more money from you, or take your full payment. If you're negotiating and you're trying to get to a certain number and you don't want to do it anymore, just pay them their number. You can always get out of the negotiations by going back to where you were or paying them what they're asking for. And you can always file bankruptcy if you never get to the point where it really works for you. So bankruptcy option is always there. So what I thought was, I have nothing to lose. Instead of turning my life over to the courts right now, filing bankruptcy, paying in California at the time, it was like $2,500 to file bankruptcy. I don't know what it is in your state or what it is now. That's what it was 15 years ago in California. Instead of paying $2,500 to the court and $500 an hour to a bankruptcy attorney to go represent me in court and spend, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 on bankruptcy, and then all the rest of my assets go over to the court to pay off my debts, and I'm stuck with next to nothing, having done nothing. Before I do that, and before I just keep paying the money every month forever and spending, I had almost $250,000 in credit card debt. So if I'd made my minimum monthly payments for 10 or 15 years, I would have spent $500,000, which was frankly impossible. There was no way I was ever going to make that amount of money. I'd never made that amount of money anyway, personally, in my business, certainly not in the time frame that I needed to, and definitely not to just put into credit cards and not pay for my life. Those options didn't seem good. So this option seemed like, why not give it a try? I went through that journey alone. I call it like walking in a dark tunnel, or going to a haunted house. If you ever go to a haunted house at Halloween, when you're in the dark and there's little scratchy sounds, things going on, it's scary. But then if someone turns on the lights and you realize that the scratchy sound is just some kid in the corner rubbing a coin on a glass jar, and that spooky shadow is just a, rubber chicken swinging with a light below it, it's not scary anymore. When I went through that journey alone, it was scary, but I shine a light onto a dark tunnel to tell you, you are not alone while you do this. And I really mean that. You are not alone. A lot of people, so many people, when they get into credit card debt that they can't really handle, begin to think that they're the only ones who this is happening to. They begin to think, no, nobody else is doing this but me. But here's the truth. Nearly half of Americans went to credit cards to cover their basic living expenses in the last few years. That's not what credit cards were intended for. Credit cards were intended to be a way to pay for dinner without bringing cash, and just the convenience. And then over time, all of those MasterCard priceless commercials. If your income really isn't enough to go to a friend's wedding in Italy, you can put it on your credit card to go to a friend's wedding in Italy and pay it off over time. That's what credit cards were sort of intended for. They weren't intended to cover your rent and your gas and your clothes and your food. But people are turning to credit cards. 1 out of 2 Americans turn into credit cards to cover their basic living expenses because the business model of all of America has turned upside down in the past 10 or 15 years, from the market crash to COVID and interest rate hikes and inflation and all of that. 20 million Americans are behind on their utility bills. That's 1 in like every 5 or 6 home, like, head of households. That's not just poor people. That's everybody turning to credit cards to do things that they weren't meant for. 75% of Americans missed credit card payments during COVID. That's 3 out of 4. That's 3 out of 4 people on the road in their cars when you're driving down the street. 3 out of 4 people in line in the grocery store next to you. 3 out of 4 of your coworkers have missed credit card payments during the last, from 2020 to 2022. And in that time, even though that number has gone down a little bit after COVID, credit card debt has gone up. The national credit card debt was about $800 billion in 2019. It hadn't changed in about 10 years. It was about $800 billion, $850 billion in 2008 at the market crash. It's now $1.2 trillion. So while more people have gotten current on their credit cards because after COVID, 40 million people went back to work, they put more on their credit cards, such that the national credit card debt has gone up by 50% in the past 4 years. That's how much people are living on credit cards. So I created Debt Reduction Made Easy for them, for you, for 3 out of 4 Americans who have found that the business model of their lives have turned upside down and that credit card debt became something that it wasn't intended to be, to show you a way out. I have a special surprise for you. One of our guests today actually is my friend who did, let me scan back to it, this settlement. I redacted his name when I put it in there, but he joined us today. So when we get to the end, you have a Q&A. I'm gonna do a little interview with him, and you can hear not just from one of my recorded clients and their experiences, but an actual client. So welcome, Naveed. Here's Mark talking about his experience.
All these little fragments of here of, techniques that they're going to use against you. And I wrote down these tiers of they're gonna be nice, they're gonna be friendly, they're gonna get emotional, they're gonna threaten you, all these things, so that when it was happening, I had it right on a piece of paper in front of me on my desk. And I was like, oh, that's where they are right now. And I didn't get blindsided by it. So I had a lot of, I'll say, administration sort of backing me up, spreadsheets, scripts, all my sort of my anchor datums that I would rivet in, and kind of built myself a platform on how to really move forward.
So that's Mark saying, I shined that light on the dark tunnel. I told him the road he was going to drive down, so he wasn't blindsided by it. And I also gave him tools, which is most of what Debt Reduction Made Easy does, is it gives you the tools to accomplish this. So the bulk of our time together today, the bulk of what I'm going to be teaching you, is the top 3 reasons that people stay in debt forever. This is serious. People will stay in debt their entire lives. I kid you not. They will die with credit card debt and pass it on to their heirs for these 3 reasons. One is they're emotional about their debt. We get emotional about finance anyway. People are emotional about money. It's why we don't go on a first date and talk about how much you make. It's why you don't go to your friends and say, how much did you buy for your house? We kind of have this privacy and secrecy about our financial lives. I know that's changing a little bit with millennials. They're all posting their salaries online, which I think is great. I think people should be more open about finance and money because we all do it. Why not share that more openly with each other? But especially when it comes to debt, people go through fear and shame and stress and guilt and anxiety and doubt and recriminations. All of that emotion gets inside us. And when people get stuck in that emotion, they don't find a way out and they stay in debt forever. Or they're worried about their credit score going down. You wouldn't be surprised. You're probably thinking this yourself. So many people hear about debt settlement, or they hear about bankruptcy. And the first thing that goes through their head is it's going to crash your credit score. We're going to talk a lot about what your credit score means in just a few minutes and why this can be turned around into your favor. Or they've never heard about debt settlement, or they've heard about it and they don't think that doing it yourself is an option. They see the ads for debt settlement agencies out there and they're not ready to go hire an agency and pay an agency, and they don't know they can do it themselves. So what I'm here is to get you through, get you out of being emotional about your debt, get you out of the attachment to credit score that you have, and give you the tools to do this yourself so that you can, as I said when we started, get out of debt as quickly as possible and save way more money than any of the other options would. So let's talk about being emotional about our debt. People have fear of judgment. They don't want, I've had kids in their 20s in college who get into credit card debt. They don't want their parents to know. I've had adults in their 50s and 60s who are in credit card debt and they don't want their grown kids to know. I've had spouses who keep their credit card debt secret from each other during the marriage, before the marriage, when they get married, they don't share it with each other. I've had people who don't learn how much debt their spouse was in until they get divorced and they're forced to show their finances to the other person. And I've had widows and widowers whose spouse passes away and didn't realize how much debt their spouse was in. We don't share it with our friends. We hold on to our credit card debt because we feel alone and we're afraid people will judge us for it. Or there's some self-applied shame that comes from getting into debt in the first place. How did this happen to me? Why did I let myself get here? Or guilt or embarrassment. Or when it comes to the idea of negotiating our way out, as I'm going to share with you today, people lack confidence. We have this big image of what debt collectors are like. We're like, oh my gosh, professional debt collectors. We have all these images from decades past of how mean and aggressive they are. And that intimidates people. So they don't want to get in a position where they have to talk to a debt collector. They're afraid of their credit score going down, as I mentioned. They have insecurity and anxiety, and all of these things live in us that kind of force us on an emotional basis to pay our credit card every month. If I just make that payment every month, I don't have to go through any of this. I don't have to tell anybody about this. I don't have to face a debt collector. And so they just make that payment in order to alleviate the emotion. What I come along and do is I say, alleviate the emotion first. Learn how to let go of all the fear and doubt and judgment and shame and guilt and embarrassment and anxiety and insecurity. Let go of all of that. Let go of all those emotions, and you will be in a much better position to get out of credit card debt. And this is the number one secret for that the course goes through in detail, which is that your bank is treating your debt like a business. It makes sense. They're a bank. They're in the lending money business, and they are treating you like a business, notwithstanding all of the commercials where banks show people running through golden fields on beautiful days saying that it's all about relationship. It is not about relationship. That is marketing. Your bank is not trying to build a personal relationship with you. You are a customer, and they are in the business of lending you money and charging you interest. And their goal is to have you pay off that money at the most possible interest for as long as possible. And before you get it paid off, get into debt again and keep adding to your balance and paying them full money at full interest forever. That is their goal. And they do it without emotion. They are not emotional about you at all. It's why calling up your bank in tears and saying, please, please, please give me a break doesn't work, because they're not emotional about it. In fact, they know that if you are emotional about it, your bank knows that if you're emotional about it and they're not, they are going to win in that business relationship. And the other thing that guides them is the law and the numbers. And that's it. There's an economist named Milton Friedman from the 1950s or 60s who said the business of business is to make as much money as possible without breaking the law. And that's what banks do. Not only do they do their best, notwithstanding Wells Fargo breaking some laws a few years ago, they change laws. They have lobbyists who go to your state and federal government to make sure that laws are passed in their favor and make sure that other laws are not passed that are not in their favor. They manipulate the law so that they can make more money off of you. That is their goal, to follow the law and follow the numbers with no emotion only. But if they're doing that, if they're following the law and the numbers, and you are not, you are only using your emotion to guide you, they are going to win. So here's the solution to the number one reason that keeps most people in debt forever. For you to treat your debt like a business by letting go of the emotion and following the numbers and following the law only. I have a little phrase for that. Be the CEO of the corporation of you. You are whatever your name is, comma, INC, Inc. You are Kenny Goldie Corporation. You are the corporation of you. Be the CEO of that corporation and know that it is your job, your fiduciary responsibility to you and your shareholders, which is your family, to get out of debt as quickly as possible and save as much money as possible. And take that analogy and make it a corporation. Think of the CEO. There are so many right now whose businesses are their business models have been turned entirely upside down due to tariffs. So pick any company who's importing goods, and suddenly in the last 6 months, their business model has turned upside down, and they were carrying a lot of debt, which they now can't pay off because they can't import the goods that they were going to sell, and they can't service the debt. They don't have the cash because they're not selling the product. If that CEO of that corporation goes to its bank and says, how do I pay you less than I owe so that I don't have to file bankruptcy and close my doors and fire all of my employees, and negotiates a settlement for less money than they owed and comes through and makes it to the end of the tariff season that we're in right now and gets that product in and sells it and pays off what that negotiated, that CEO is heralded as a genius, who did a great job of business, not scolded as somebody who negotiated the settlement on their debt. But we as individuals are taught that we're supposed to feel bad if we can't manage our debts. But if you're the CEO of the corporation of you, with the fiduciary responsibility to do your best job of getting out of debt as quickly as possible for as least money as possible for the benefit of you and your shareholders, your family, then you can start actually taking advantage of the laws that are there in your favor. Bankruptcy is a law that was created in order to help people who got into credit card debt, because the government recognized that we can't just throw people in prison like the British did for debt hundreds of years ago. This is a notice that goes out to everybody who is behind on their credit card payments. I got this one in California, which mentions the state Rosenthal Fair Debt Collection Act. Whatever state you're in is going to be different, but this one here goes to everybody. The Federal Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which is a federal law that limits what banks can do and what debt collectors can do in order to collect debts, and is intended to protect you. But I meet so many people who don't want to take advantage of the laws that are there to help them because the emotion is stopping them from doing it. So when you say, I am the CEO of the corporation of me, and I'm going to let go of fear and doubt and shame and anxiety and guilt and embarrassment and all of that, it does not apply. My job is to run my company. It allows you to treat that like a business and meet the banks on a level playing field. You are now also negotiating through business as they are, and you can do better. Rick went through a divorce, got left with $18,000 in a divorce, had 2 kids he was raising. They were little, 3 and 7 at the time, settled it down for $3,500 so he could put that money into raising his children. Thomas reduced $47,000 to $12,000. Rob reduced $150,000 to $33,000 over multiple accounts, as you can see. So that is how to get out of the number one reason that most people stay in debt forever, how to let go of the emotional debt by being the CEO of the corporation of you and treating debt like a business. Now let's talk about your credit score. People are terrified of their credit score going down. Oh my God, we're like taught since we're children to be afraid of your credit score. People build an identity attachment to their credit score. They actually feel like I'm a better person when I have an 800 credit score, and I'm a worse person when I have a 500 credit score. You don't go on a date, first date, and tell the girl or man you're out with, yeah, I have a 500 credit score, because we think it reflects badly on us. Have you ever stopped to think why? Why do we think a low credit score reflects badly on us? Because you have been taught to. You have been taught through media and parents and clergy and society to believe that having a high credit score makes you a good person and having a low credit score makes you a bad person. By banks. You have been taught this by banks who want to emotionally manipulate you into making that minimum monthly payment forever to keep your credit score high, not just so you won't have to face a collection call or the judgment of your friends, but so you won't feel like a bad person to yourself. This was a commercial you may have seen. They came out about 20 years ago when those credit reporting websites came out. This one might have been freecreditreports.com. There were others. I don't remember which one did the commercial. It was a band playing at the Renaissance Fair, singing a jingle that basically said, if you have a low credit score, the only job you will be able to get is working at the Renaissance Fair, and you will be living in your parents' basement, and you will be lonely and unlovable forever. That was the song, intended to emotionally attach you to having a high credit score to make you keep paying your minimum monthly credit card payment. Do you remember this one? It was a different company. 2 big strapping guys in a Superman pose, 790 credit score, 775 credit score. And then what do they do with the 583? A short, fat, dumpy, bald guy in a literal horror movie mask to make him look like the unlovable villain, so that a husband and wife are watching this, and the husband who's in credit card debt sees it and thinks, that's what my wife is going to see me as if I don't have a high credit score. So I'm going to keep making my minimum monthly payment forever, even if it means sacrificing our life and our family and our happiness to do something that you don't legally need to do. So here's the solution to the second reason people stay in debt forever, which is an emotional attachment to their credit score. To recognize that your credit score is a tool, and it has more than one use. The first use that everybody associates with your credit score is to get you access to more credit at a lower interest rate. That is the ostensible use of your credit score. Get more credit cards, get more higher limits on your credit scores, get a lower interest rate. have a higher car loan at a lower interest rate, have a higher home loan at a lower interest rate. If your credit score is high, what it does is it gets you access to more credit at a lower interest rate. And then ostensibly, when you take out that higher loan, you're going to save some money on that loan because you have a lower interest rate. So ultimately, your credit score's tool for you, for lenders, it's to judge whether or not to lend to you. But for you, it's to save some money on higher loans. That's your credit score's tool. But if you're not using it for that, if you already own your house, or you're in debt right now, or unemployed right now and not willing to buy a house, if you already own your car or can buy a car for a couple thousand in cash and not go take out a car loan, or if you're not looking for a business loan, you're not looking for a student loan, if you're not looking for a loan for any reason right now, why keep your credit score high? If you're not looking to use it to get you a higher loan and save you money in interest on that loan, it has another use. You can use it to save you way more money than it will save you at a slightly lower interest rate by letting that credit score fall. So I'm going to take you through the numbers again. We already looked at these numbers: 100,000 in credit card debt, 2,600 a month monthly payment, 6.5 years to pay off, 100,000 in interest. You're going to pay 200,000 by the time it's done. And when it's done, you will still have an 800 credit score or thereabouts, and you will struggle with money that whole time. If you are struggling in your current business model of life, you have your income, whatever it is, and your credit card debt, whatever it is, unless that changes, unless the pray option works and that changes, that struggling is going to continue. And at the end of struggling for 6.5 years, you will feel good for a little while. You'll say, I paid off my whole credit card debt for $200,000 instead of $100,000, or double whatever your current debt is. And you'll get a little emotional burst for having done that. You'll feel good that that credit card settled, and you'll feel good that you'll still have your 800 credit score. That is one way to use your credit score. Or, we did these numbers already, settle for about 35%, 0 monthly payment. So that $2,600 a month, or whatever your monthly payment is, goes into your life for all of those years, which means you're now not financially struggling along the way, because you're taking the money that you were paying towards your credit card, you're putting it into your life, you're making your income and your expenses balance. You've saved whatever you saved in principal, 65% of your principal, and double your principal in interest. And you will now have somewhere around a 500 credit score. Mine went to 508 at its lowest. I had one client went to 490. It's going to be in the 500s somewhere, but you will be debt and stress-free that whole time. And in this model, instead of paying $200,000, you're going to pay $35,000. You're going to save $165,000. And then people come to me and say, okay, I get it. My credit card debt was whatever it was. I'm going to save 65% in principal and 100% in interest. My credit score is going to go low. I'm going to be debt and stress-free, but then I want to take out a loan. I want to take out a car loan. Now I have a low credit score. How much is it going to cost me down the line to do this? So I ran those numbers for you. Also, I'm comparing two car loans, both $25,000 car loans, both at the same at a different interest rate. This one, 5%, is if you still have that 800 credit score. And this one, 9%, is if your credit score has dropped to 500. I know that interest rates have changed. I don't change the cards every time interest rates change. It would be too much. Interest rates are around 7 and 11 right now, but the point isn't what the actual interest rate is. It's what the gap is. You're going to pay a lower interest rate when your credit score remains high, and a higher interest rate when your credit score goes low. Same 60-month term, same $25,000 car loan. Look at the numbers. Your minimum monthly payment with your 800 credit score is going to be your monthly payment on your car is going to be $471, and your monthly payment on your car with your 500 credit score is going to be $518, which means you're going to pay $50 a month more for that car. And at the end of 5 years of your loan, instead of paying $3,300 in interest, you're going to pay $6,100 in interest. So at the end of your 5-year loan, you're going to pay $3,000 more in interest for that car loan, $6,000 total instead of $3,000 total. But you saved, on my $100,000 example, $165,000 in principal and interest on your credit card, and were probably able to buy this car many years sooner, even with your lower interest rate, because you now have the money to make a down payment, and that $165,000 savings cost you an extra $3,000 in interest. And let's just drop it by a quarter. Say you have $25,000 in debt instead of $100,000, which means instead of saving $165,000, you're going to save about $40,000. But still, you're going to save $40,000 in principal and future interest to pay $3,000 more on your car loan. looking only at the numbers and what is illegal, what would the CEO of the corporation of you do? Your credit score is a tool. And a lot of people say, well, what if I want to buy a house? I say the same thing. Run the numbers. If you have $10,000 in credit card debt and you're looking at buying a $250,000 or $350,000 house, don't settle your credit card debt. If you have $250,000 in credit card debt like I did, and it's going to cost you $500,000 over the next 15 years, I can't buy a house anyway. And when I do, the extra interest might actually be less than what I'm saving. So run the numbers and make the fiduciary choice that the CEO of a corporation would make. Stephen eliminated $50,000 in credit card debt. This couple eliminated $120,000. Here's Mark again.
Go through your book, and yeah, there's certain things that I have, highlighted in here and starred and notes on them and stuff, because I didn't have enough stability to know what I could do and what was possible. And without knowing the what was possible, I would have compromised on something a lot less.
So let's talk about the third reason that people stay in debt forever, that they just don't know about debt settlement, or they don't think they can negotiate it on their own. So they see these commercials for these debt relief agencies, and they're going to pay somebody else thousands or tens of thousands of dollars to do what they can do themselves, simply because they don't have the knowledge to do it themselves. So have you seen these ads? I am doing what I do for a living. I am very irritated by the ads that run on television and commercials. They literally say things like, there are secret government programs that banks and credit card companies don't want you to know about. I am telling you right now, there are no secret government programs. There are government programs to help people in mortgage debt figure out how to pay their mortgage. But there is no program in any state or the federal government that will negotiate credit card payments for you. They don't exist. It is literally BS advertising. And then they say, call to see if you qualify for these programs. This is literally a screenshot from one of their online advertisements. See if you qualify. Let me tell you, it's not whether or not you qualify to negotiate debt with a bank. It's whether or not you qualify for them to take you on as a client because you have enough debt. Most of them have a minimum of $10,000 that you need to have in debt. So they can make a minimum of about $2,500 for taking your case, for making a phone call for you that you could make on your own and save that same $2,500 almost instantly. I'm going to take you into why. There are no secret government programs. It's legal to settle debt. It's a contract between you and another entity that said you have an obligation to them that you now can't meet. So you are calling them to say, I can't meet my obligation, and let's negotiate a way to do it differently. If you are struggling with credit card debt, you qualify. If you want to reduce or eliminate your credit card debt, you qualify. If you want to be free of all that painful emotion of debt, you qualify. There are no secret government programs, but agencies want you to think that they have access to something that you don't have. They want you to think that they have a relationship with the bank that you don't have. They want you to think that what they do is special and scarce so that you can't do it yourself, so that you will pay them a lot of money to do it for you. How much money? About 15 to 25% of your total debt. I use 20 in there as a mid number, but basically it's if you have less debt, they're going to charge you a higher percentage, and more debt, they're going to charge you a lower percentage. And again, like always, I don't want you to take my word for it. This is a screenshot from an online ad from an actual debt settlement agency that says clients save approximately 40% to 50% of their enrolled debt. I just want to point out that means of 100% of debt, they're saying you're going to save 40 to 50%, which means you're going to pay 50 to 60%. I'm saying you're going to save about 65% and spend about 35%. So they're not even telling you you can save as much as I'm telling you because of two things. One, their fees, and two, they're not working for you. They are working for themselves. Their goal is to settle out your debt as quickly as possible, which means they're going to tell you that about a 40 to 50% off settlement is good, so that when the bank gives that to them quicker, they're going to get you to settle out your debt quicker and close your file and take your money as quickly as possible because it takes longer to get a lower settlement amount and they don't want to work for you for that long. And that's before program fees. Fees are based on a percentage of your enrolled debt, 14 to 25%. Here's another one that actually spells it out for you. Clients who stay with the program and get all of their debt realize approximate savings of 46% in the settlement, not even 50. They're telling you you're going to settle at a 54% payment rate. And after they charge their fees, your actual settlement amount is about 25%. So if you have $100,000 in debt, they're telling you you're going to pay the bank about 50 and you're going to pay us another 25 and you're only going to save 25%. And when you do, they're going to say you got the best deal that you could get. Because I've had clients who call on their own and get a 50% offer in 3 to 6 months. That's what the agency is going to tell you what to expect. And when they get it, they're going to tell you to be happy for it. So let me take you through the numbers. Same $100,000 nice round number in debt. You can change the numbers for yourself. If you have $100,000 in credit card debt and you settle it at 50, it means you're paying the bank $50,000 and you're paying the agency, I'm going to use that middle number, about $20,000, which means your total payment is $70,000 and you've saved $30,000 in about 3 to 6 months. But as the CEO of the corporation of you, your best interest is not to close the file as quickly as possible. Your best interest is to be patient and save more money for yourself and your family. $100,000 in debt self-negotiated to about 35%. You pay the bank $35,000. You pay zero to an agency. Your total payment is $35,000 in 6 to 18 months. Yes, it takes longer, but you save twice as much money. Now, I got to tell you, when I was over $250,000 in debt, that 70 to 75%, I didn't have. You may be in a place where you're like, I have $50,000 in credit card debt, and to use an agency, it's going to cost me 35. I don't have it, but I do have 15, which means going to an agency isn't even an option if you don't have the money to pay them their fees. The other thing that people who settle their own debt get is the certainty of knowing where you are in the process. Go online, go on Facebook to a lot of these debt settlement agencies and look in the comments. So many of the comments are, I called and called, I couldn't get anybody on the phone, I couldn't get an answer. They're not working for you, they're working for themselves. They want to make you think that they are special to you, and therefore you don't get the attention you feel you need. But when you take the agency out of the equation and you are calling the bank yourself, it gives you a sense of power and authority over your own financial future.
You just gave me so much more confidence. Like, you just gave me a peace of mind, realized that this is a strategy.
So I'm going to teach you that strategy. If the solution to the third reason people stay in debt forever is to learn do-it-yourself debt settlement, that's what Debt Reduction Made Easy does. It teaches you how to do it. And I know you may have more questions. I don't know how to negotiate. It's in there. Everything about all the tactics, all the scripts they use, all the intimidations they use, it's in there. And I teach you all of the counter arguments, what to say in return. I teach you how to negotiate. I don't have enough money to make a settlement payment. I know I'm throwing numbers around now. Like, you have $50,000 in debt, you can settle it for $15,000. And you say, I don't even have that $15,000. Well, if you're making your minimum monthly payment, over time, you're going to pay it to them anyway. So in the course are many ways. There's a chapter called the 10 ways, but many ways to show you how to find that money in your life that you probably don't even see it around you right now. I heard I can get sued. Yes, it's possible. One of the tools that banks have when borrowers don't repay as agreed is to sue them, but it's not in their best interest to sue you. It takes years. When I got sued and actually got the court document saying I'd been sued, the court date was set for a year from then. And that was after a year of negotiations. It takes years to sue them. They spend money on attorneys, often to the point where they don't even make back the money that they're trying to get. It's not in their best interest to go to court. They use it as a tool to get you to settle sooner. And there's a whole video in the course on what to do if you get sued. I will tell you, I got sued twice. I never went to court. I still settled out the accounts before I went to court. I've had clients who've gotten sued. They've still settled out the accounts before they went to court. No client of mine has ever gone to court judgment because I am there telling them how to negotiate out of that along the way. Will it work if I'm married? Yes. Business debt. So here's the thing about business debt. If you are a public corporation and you were just hired as like the CEO of a corporation and took out debt on the corporation, this is not the process. There are different processes for that. If you own your own business and you took out a credit card in the name of your business, that credit card loan was far more than likely, I'm almost virtually guaranteed, that the loan had a personal guarantee on it, which means while the card may be in the name of your business and you're buying and selling in the name of your business and taking out debt and paying it off in the name of your business to build business credit, if you default on the credit, they're coming after you personally, whether the card was in the name of the business or not, which means it's a personal loan, which means this process will work. Will it work for my particular bank? I have dealt with almost all of the major US banks whose names you will know. There's a few that I didn't deal with. My clients have dealt with almost every major US bank whose name you will know. I or my clients have dealt with, and it has worked with all of them. Even the ones that when a client went to them and said to me that the first response was, they said they never do this. Over time, they do. That said, out of the thousands and thousands of regional and local banks around the country, I have not worked with all of them. Maybe there is somebody out there who says we don't do it and they mean it. I have not yet met them, but I do like to put on the caveat of depending on what particular small little regional bank you work with, somebody may not do it. I've yet to encounter it. All of your questions are answered in the course. Here's Jerry again.
As soon as you stop making the payments, then the phone calls start. You get a letter, started getting the letters from the actual creditors. And then later when they flipped them over to a collection agency, without your book and information, I wouldn't have known how to deal with them. What terminology to use, what things to ask for, what actions to take. So that book was so practical and it just gave me the tools.
I hope you have learned by now that I really want to help you. I've been in this business 15 years. Nicole's going to tell you it is not a huge financial business because I know I'm helping people who are in debt. I really want to help you, and I want to take a few more minutes to show you how I can.
He has this beautiful course. First, I have to tell you how grateful I am for that course. So he has this beautiful video course that he kind of walks you through it. And Kenny, you're great on camera. The way that you encourage, it's practical. It also speaks to emotional and mental health. I found it extremely complete. Like it was really comprehensive.
So the course that she talks about is a video course. It's me on camera. The modules feel very much like me talking to you today with a lot of graphics and background and images and numbers and charts and graphs and text for me to take you through the material. On a very high level, you're going to learn every secret that banks and debt settlement agencies don't want you to know about settling credit card debt for less than its owes. On a much more personal level, you're going to get a debt-free life. If you go through this process with each of your banks, you will be debt-free. That's how going through the process works, which means you can have more money to put towards your life. And something that agencies and bankruptcy don't do, they don't take you through the process where you get rid of the emotional manipulations around finances that you're putting on yourself. They don't give you courage and confidence because you're turning it over to somebody else. But when you go through the process yourself, with my guidance through the course, you let go of all those emotions and you develop a courage and confidence around finance that sticks with you to rebuild your financial life and achieve financial freedom in your future. I am now going to take you through the cost of the course. I want to remind you that the costs I'm going to show you up front are not the costs you're going to pay. They're the kind of the history of the pricing, and you're going to get a surprise discount just for spending this time here with me this morning. When I first started making these videos, I was sending them out to my clients individually. I'd make a video and I'd go send it to them. I'd make a video and I'd go send it to them. And these are the prices that they were individually. So there's 2 videos on the 6 ways to get out of debt. I go into far more detail on bankruptcy and agencies and debt settlement, all of those. And then I did 2 videos on the fears of getting out of debt and what all those judgments and recriminations and talking to debt collectors and credit scores and all of that is like those two videos. There's a whole video on letting go of emotions and this thing I call Get Clear on Your Fear, where I really kind of have you peel the onion off to find out what is the real fear that's affecting you. It's different for everybody, and let that go. There's a whole video on accounting. You're going to see in a little while. I created this spreadsheet. I'm very proud of it, that takes you through all of your expenses and all of your debt and all of your income and what it's going to look like to save money over time and how to build your settlement targeted amount, how to build your settlement fund. All of the accounting practices are in there. There's 2 videos on strategy if you have one card or multiple cards, and when and how to negotiate with banks differently. That's all in there. There's 2 videos on the history of banking. I was so fascinated by this world that I went back and I learned how credit cards started and which banks started credit cards and some really fascinating legal tidbits. For instance, there is still no federal law that limits how much how much interest a bank can charge on a loan. There's no federal law limiting it. The only thing that limits how much interest a bank can charge on a loan is market competition. If a bank put out a credit card at 75%, nobody's going to take it. So originally banks were putting out credit cards at 3 and 4 and 5%, thinking nobody will take a 10% card. And then somebody said, well, I think I'll put out a 10% card. And people took it. And then somebody said, I think I'll put out a 15, a 20, a 25, a 30, a 35, a 38% card. And people took it. People keep taking credit cards at higher interest rates, which means banks keep putting out credit cards at higher interest rates and making more money. And while consumer groups have gone to Congress for decades to try and get your national government to pass a law that would put a cap on that, banks have sent lobbyists to Congress that same time to prevent them from making that law. And guess who won? So I take you through the whole history of banking and credit cards and what the business of banking and lending actually is, so that when you start talking to debt collectors, you understand where they're coming from. I talk to you about what they're going to say to you to try and get you to keep paying. I talk about what you're going to say to them to get the best settlement that you can. We talk about what happens if you get sued. We talk about how to get a document that protects you, like I showed you, mine and Naveed's earlier in the webinar today. We go out how to make those payments to protect yourself. And we talk about credit repair after you've gone through the process and you've settled out your debt and you do have your 500 and something credit score. What are the options to you to pump that credit score back up as quickly as possible? We talk about tax implications. It's all in there. If you were to have bought every video individually along the way, it would be over $2,500. Remember, that surprise discount is coming. I also include for free both of my books, my original Do-It-Yourself Bailout, which is my story of how I negotiated with each of my banks, and then the Debt Settlement Easy Business Plan, which is the same process put into the steps that you will take. It's kind of a written like side guide to go through the video course. This is the spreadsheet I told you about. I'm very, very proud of it. I really learned Excel myself to make all the background calculations for you to put in your income and your debts and your expenses, and it calculates for you your target fund and how long it's going to take you to reach it and your settlement amounts and all of that. And I put in a workbook. There's an 80+ page workbook for all the exercises that I take you through in the course is all there in the workbook. When you add all that in, the total value over $2,600. But again, that is not what you are going to pay today because you are here spending this time with me. I have numerous discounts for you. So let me take you through the options that you have to have the Debt Reduction Made Easy course and plan work for you. I have 2 options. One is you can just buy the video course, kind of self-guide yourself through it. You get the books and the spreadsheet and the workbooks, and you take yourself through it. And the other option is to get all the video course and books and all of that and join me on a once-a-month call for everybody enrolled in the program to get mentoring, Q&A. Sometimes it's me live. Sometimes it's one of my Debt Reduction Made Easy coaches. Ask questions, tell them what your situation you're in with your bank. They said this, what do I do? All of that kind of hand-holding along the way to give you an anchor point. When you purchase the video course, you get the videos, the worksheets, the workbook, the spreadsheets, all the books, lifetime access. This is not a 6-month or 1-year access. I have a private membership area. When you buy the video course, you're going to get an email. It's going to have a login to the membership area. The membership area is going to be there for you forever to have access to all of that. Normal value, $2,600. And when I packaged it all together, again, this is not the price you're paying today. You get a surprise discount for joining me today. But when I packaged all of those videos and everything together, the package price I charge is $797. And then if you do the monthly mentoring, you get all of that as well. and a once a month live group mentoring Q&A call to get that anchor point, touch base, ask questions, hear about other people's wins and what they're going through to aid your learning in going through the process. That would normally be the $2,650 value of the program, plus my hour-long coaching session. I am a professional executive coach. I make $750 for 1 hour session. That's my business. This is my passion business. So the price for that is, if you join the monthly mentoring program, I give you half off the video course. So if you know today you want the video course and the monthly mentoring program, you get 50% off the video course for joining the mentoring program. And then here's your surprise special discount. Because you joined me live today, I'm going to give you another 50% off all of that. So if you purchase just the video courses today, the $2,647 worth of value of all the video courses, the books, the workbook, the spreadsheet, all of that, $398 one-time payment for lifetime access. And if you want to join the mentoring program, that will only be $200 today to buy the whole video program, and $98 a month to join the mentoring. And if you're ready to do that, if you know you want to do that, go now to debtreductionmadeeasy.com/get started. You'll see one screen where you enter your name and email address, so I know who you are and where to send your login information. And then the next screen, you'll see the radio buttons there that either get the video course or the video course with the mentoring. They're going to have those $797 and $398, $197 prices next to them. Right below that is a coupon code box. Put in this code, training special 50, training special 50, hit apply, and you will see the prices drop down to $398 for the video course, or $198 plus $98 a month for the mentoring. So if you know you're ready to get started, go to debtreductionmadeeasy.com/get started. And if you're not quite ready yet, I want to ask you a few questions. So if you were to get this course, and all it did, like the very, very minimum it could do, was to help you settle out the very, very minimum credit card balance. And I'm going to use $10,000 as an example because that's the minimum balance that agencies take. So I'm going to kind of make an equivalent. If you were to go to an agency, they're going to tell you you're going to settle your $10,000 for about $5,000, $5,500, and pay them about $2,000, $2,500 more, and save anywhere from $1,500 to $2,500 bucks. I'm going to say take that $10,000, and if you were to actually go through Debt Reduction Made Easy, settle it at 35%, save $6,500 in principal balance, and another $10,000 in future interest. Total savings of $16,500 on just the minimum level of struggling credit card debt. Would that be worth investing $198 right now and $98 a month? And then take that through whatever your credit card debt is. Do you have 15, 25, 50, 100? Go through your numbers, whatever your amount is. Take off 65% for the amount that you could likely save in principal, another 100% for the amount that you will save in future interest, be debt-free in 6 to 18 months instead of 7 to 12 years. Would that be worth investing $198 now and $98 a month? And this is where I really want to help you. An agency, as your debt keeps going up, they're going to keep charging you more. And here's one of my real pet peeves about agencies. I would get it if an agency said, we're going to charge our percentage on how much we save you. If you have $100,000 in debt and we save you 35, we're going to take our 20% of that 35, $7,000. If we save you $60,000, we're going to take our 20% of that 60, $12,000. That would incentivize them to do better for you. But they're not incentivized to do better for you because they get their percentage on your total debt no matter how much they settle it for. They're incentivized to close your account as quickly as possible because they get their full fee no matter what. I don't charge you more based on how much debt you have. You could have $10,000 in debt, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million in debt, and go save $600,000. I hope you do. I'm still taking $198 and $98 a month to help you get there because I don't want to help 10 people in $1 million in debt. I want to help 1 million people reduce the national credit card debt by $1 trillion. That's my goal. If you were to be in this program for about the 18 months that I think it's going to take, and you spend $200 on the video course and another $1,800 on being in the program, that's $2,000 total that you would spend over a year and a half in this course, $2,000 total to save 65% on your principal and 100% of your interest. So that will cost you less than if you were to go to a bankruptcy attorney and just get 4 hours of time. Bankruptcy attorney, $500 an hour, $2,000. You would get 4 hours of that bankruptcy attorney's time. And in that 4 hours, I guarantee you there is no way that bankruptcy attorney is going to give you anywhere close to the amount of information about debt settlement that you're going to get through watching the video courses and coming to a 1.5 years of coaching sessions with me. Like, not even close to the information that you'll get. This method works for one account or many. It works whether you're current or delinquent on your accounts. It works for any lender with that little almost there. There may be one bank out there who doesn't do this, but I've never seen them yet. Single or married, whether you're employed or not, you've lost your job, lost your business after divorce, or if you're widowed, interest rate hikes, inflation. The only time that I have seen this method not work is when people don't do it. When people don't do it, it doesn't work. Every client I've ever had who has stuck with the process has had banks negotiate settlement on their debts, and I have a 100% success rate with my clients who have done the process. The ones who have stopped are the ones who haven't gotten there. If you quit before you begin, you're not going to get there. But here's the thing about debt. Some things go away on their own. If you get a cut on your arm, you could go get stitches or not. If you don't get stitches, it's still going to heal. It may not look the same if you don't get stitches, but it's still going to heal. Debt does not go away on its own. It is going to be there until you do something about it. And if you're thinking the only thing you can do about it is pay, pray, or run away, it is going to default to the one that is most emotionally easy for you. The one that you feel the least emotional pain in is the one you will do. And if that's continuing to pay every month, that's what you will do. If that's not paying your credit cards and praying for some change in your circumstances to happen, that's the one you will do. And if filing bankruptcy is the easiest for you, that's the one you will do. You will do the one that feels emotionally easiest because your debt doesn't go away on its own. You have to choose something if you want to have a result that's different. We talked about what going through this method works. If you want as much control over it as possible, and you're willing to put in the time and effort and create that mindset of success, which I'm going to help you do, I have yet to see it not work. You are going to save time, money, all the mistakes that I made along the way, all of the effort that I put in along the way that cost me more, you won't go through, and you will save more time and more money by doing it with the guidance of somebody who has been through it before you and can share that with you. So go to debtreductionmadeeasy.com/get started. Put in your name and email address, go to that second page, enter training special 50, training special 50 at checkout to get that 50% off, to learn every secret that your banks and agencies don't want you to know about reducing credit card debt for far less than is owed. You'll get immediate access. As soon as you hit purchase, you're going to get an email with a login to your membership area where you will see all the videos and books and everything there waiting for you. And this is what we talked about when we started. You have two choices in everything. You can keep doing what you're doing. Like I said, I am not here to steer you towards debt settlement. I'm here to give you information to make a choice for yourself, the most empowered choice that I hope you will make. But you can keep doing what you're doing. You can keep paying your debt at full interest for as long as it takes and get it paid off, keep your credit score high. You can pray to make more money. You can file bankruptcy, or you can try something different, which is to take control over your own situation, to invest in yourself, to acquire knowledge that will overcome your fear and anxiety and build the confidence to negotiate this for yourself, to come through the emotion for yourself and create a new future. And then people get to this point in the seminar and they pop in with, what's the downside? What is the downside to me doing this? So one downside that people ask is, well, if the video course doesn't work, I've lost $398. If I watch it all and I think it's ridiculous, I've lost my money. So I give you a guarantee. If you purchase the video course today, I give you 3 full days to watch it, 3 days to watch it, take it in. And if in that time you feel that the video course does not deliver everything that I am telling you it does, just send me an email at support@thedoityourselfbailout.com and I will refund your purchase price. I mean, that's a guarantee. You cannot lose in going through the video course. So that one doesn't matter anymore. And then they ask, well, what if the mentoring doesn't work? And I've lost $98 a month. So this is my mentoring guarantee. If you stick with the program for 2 years, I guarantee you that at least one of your banks will give you at least 50% off your debt, which is the same that an agency is going to tell you. I guarantee you'll get at minimum the same from me as from an agency without paying agency fees, or I will keep working with you in the coaching program for free after that until you do. Let me tell you, nobody's ever taken me up on this because you're going to get that 50% offer. In my experience, I believe in 3 to 6 months. And by the time you go 6 to 12 months, you're going to save a ton of money more than this. But I guarantee you that you will get at least what an agency will offer you, or this is an offer they will never make. I will work with you for free until you do. So you have really got nothing to lose except your credit card debt. And nobody has ever asked me for their money back. It's just never happened. This is my little bit of comedy right here. This is my favorite movie clip of all time.
Me.
Help me help you. My goal is to help you. I hope that has come
I'm
across.
really grateful for you, Ken, and I really am. You've been my guide through this process, and at first it was scary, but just having your voice in my head while I'm in these calls is priceless. It really just truly is. And I will tell you that it's worth every single penny. And, because you're doing debt settlement, you can't charge a really large thing because you're getting people out of debt. And it feels like a bit of a labor of love. And it is. And I'm very grateful for it.
I'm grateful for Nicole for sharing that with me. So I started off at the beginning saying, who is this for? Anybody struggling with credit card debt? Anyone looking for the fastest, cheapest way to get out of debt? I hope I have delivered to you what I truly believe that is, and evidence for it today. And I also said, if you're not sure, stay and listen. And if you know this isn't for you, I thank you so much for your time and joining me here today. And I said I would have a special free gift for you. So if you've listened to all of this and decided that you still want to maintain that minimum monthly payment on your credit card, or you think bankruptcy is a better option for you, I thank you for your time for listening. And I'm inviting you to go to debtreductionmadeeasy.com/free-DRME-spreadsheet. Go ahead and take a screenshot of that. I'm not going to leave it up super long, but go to debtreductionmadeeasy.com/free-DRME-spreadsheet, and you'll get a free copy of that debt negotiation spreadsheet to build your own settlement fund and see what your target amounts are. That is my gift to you for spending the time with me today. Thank you. And if you know this is for you, if you're ready to treat debt like a business, to let go of the painful emotions of debt, to take control of your financial life, this is the time to go to debtreductionmadeeasy.com/get started, where you'll put in your name, your email, go to that second page. You'll see the $797 and $398 and $197 a month options. Put in that training special 50 code in the box, click apply. You'll see it drop down to $398 for the video course, or $198 today and $98 a month for the mentoring program. I look forward to seeing you in the mentoring program. I started off by saying, I promise you're going to get a ton of information out of this. I really do hope that I fulfilled that promise to you. And now I'm going to stick around for a Q&A session and a super special Q&A session today. I've never done this before. I'm going to welcome my friend Navid to join us. Turn on your camera and your mic, Navid, and I'll have you in the Q&A for everybody.
Yo.
There we are.
Oh my God, that was terrible.
Oh, all
That was
right.
terrible.
Okay, so for everybody joining us on the replay, this is my friend Navid, who I love dearly and is about to be a father again. Congratulations. And
Nice.
he has been through this program and done this process, and that first debt settlement agreement that I threw up for you at the beginning was his. So a special attendee. So instead of me just rambling on about how great this program is, I'll let him. Welcome.
Hey, dude. Nice.
What was it like for you? What was it like? Where were you at with debt? Why was it burdensome for you? And what was it like for you to go through the program?
I mean, I don't know, it's scary. And the funny thing is, it's super scary. And you don't think it's going to work. But then it's funny, I was listening to your whole thing going, why would anybody think it's not going to work? And then I remembered thinking, oh, it's not back then that it wouldn't, but it does.
So you kind of get into it, and there's that gap where people are just saying no, no, like any negotiation. I remember I called up and their first offer was 90%. I'm like, I'm not 90. I've had other clients, they call up and they just say, we don't do it. Just
Yeah.
flat out, we don't do it.
Yeah.
Just say,
They all do.
stick with it. And after a while, even the ones that say flat out, we don't do it, they do. And the ones who say flat out, we never go lower than 85%, they do. And you stuck through the nose and started to get a yes.
And I got sued,
And you
and
got,
that wasn't that, and it wasn't that big of a deal either. I mean, it's scary, but it ends up being fine. That was that letter.
yeah.
The settlement letter was from being sued.
Yeah, and you never went to court, right? You got
No.
sued and you settled out before you went to court, which is what I always encourage people.
Yep.
And
Yep. Exactly.
are you still on your I have to say your settlement I've never seen before. I mean, I've seen 26,000
I,
for 9,000, but I've never seen 200 a month for like 4 years to pay it off.
yeah, I don't remember what the total is for that one. The other one was it's already paid off.
What was the other one?
Something similar, some similar amount, but I paid more a month and just
Okay.
settled.
So in total about 50,000 for about 18,000, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
that's about right.
which is
Maybe even less.
which is straight on my 35%. You got exactly where I think people are going to get and save
Yeah.
33,000 in principal and probably another $50,000 in interest that you'd still be paying.
Yeah. Ironically, I wish I'd done it with all of my cards. I didn't, but I wish I did.
You paid some off in full before you found me.
Yeah.
This is a personal question, not too personal, but I ask. I happen to know as your friend you're having a new baby. Would something like that be possible if you were still $50,000 in credit card debt?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't know. Will and determination is a different thing.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. From the stuff that I talked about today, I just want to touch point on a couple. So, what were the emotions that you were dealing with when you were in debt?
Mostly fear and panic.
Fear and panic.
Like a lot of fear and panic.
Yeah. And how did going through the process, the whole like be the CEO of the corporation of you help you let go of the fear and panic so that you could negotiate better?
I mean, I guess you just kind of have to do it, and then you just do. And it's being the CEO is a good analogy actually, because you just figure it out and you do it. And then those times when the scary things happen, like getting a letter saying you're being sued, you just power through.
I'm the CEO. CEOs get sued.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny analogy.
Did you, I don't remember where you were in terms of your credit score when we started. I think you might have already been delinquent on some and your credit score might have fallen already. But in terms of like
Yeah.
historical emotional attachment to credit score, were you able to kind of let that down and use your credit score as a tool kind of willingly without the whole, oh my God, I can't believe my credit score is falling thing that people go through?
Yeah, it's still it's funny. Your video showing the emotions around it is pretty accurate. You do freak out. You do think less of yourself, and just look honestly, you still do a little bit. Um, and you can't go lease a car, right? But it's funny how quickly it bounces back too.
Yeah, people will be delinquent on their account for years with their credit score tanked, not knowing how to get rid of the debt, and their score stay low forever. Whereas if you actually go through the process of settling, when you're done, your score bounces back pretty quickly, and then those loans and access to credit. I have full
Yeah,
credit cards and car loans and home loans and all of that again. All right. Thank you. For
yeah,
anyone who
dude.
joined us for this call, anyone watching the replay, I'm really honored to have had my friend here come and talk about going through the process himself. Debt reduction made easy, saved him 65% on his credit card debt, 50,000
A
down to
lot of
about
money.
18 and tens of thousands more in interest. And he's gotten a new family going, and I'm super proud of him. I love you and everybody else.
Love
Thanks
you
for
too,
joining
bro.
us today. All right, don't go anywhere, Naveen. I'm going to stop the recording. Talking to you.